This is another episode where the structure of the flashbacks makes it better to talk about in chronological order. We start with Nikki burying something in the jungle, then flash back to her as a stripper who then gets shot by her boss.
What you say?
Okay, not really, because this is revealed to be a TV show where Nikki's character has just been killed off, and the scene also makes Billy D. Williams the only person to ever play himself on the show. Hey, don't talk to me about being fired. I could have played Two-Face for Tim Burton. Damn you, Schumacher! And you know what? Before the audience reacted so badly to her and Paolo, we were actually going to get an entire episode of Nikki in this show, which would only be revealed as a show at the end of the episode. That's right, they were going to be an even bigger waste of time than they ended up being.
Look, I'm just a guest star, and we all know what happens to guest stars.
Ow, watch the fourth wall there. As you'll see, this is easily the most meta episode the show ever gave us. Back to the island, Nikki gasps something out to Hurley and Sawyer before Hurley declares she's dead.
How's Nikki?
Meta! See how I might have thought it meant something that Sawyer didn't know who she was? Back to Australia, where Nikki is sleeping with Australian George Carlin here. Paolo is his chef, and they kill him so they can steal his diamonds.
What?
Ashes are evidence, Paolo. We poisoned him. Let's not poison ourselves.
Foreshadowing! On the island, everyone discusses how there's apparently nothing that made Nikki die.
Maybe she was poisoned.
Foreshadowing! Hurley figures that she was saying Paolo lies, so they decide to talk to him. In flashback, Paolo shows off his nicotine gum, and then they see a bickering Boone and Shannon. One weird thing is that Ian Somerhalder and Maggie Grace are both wearing wigs in this episode, which kinda works with Boone, but for some reason Shannon's hair changes in literally every scene. It gets kind of hilarious.
Promise me we'll never end up like them.
Foreshadowing! Suddenly it's the day of the crash, and Nikki and Paolo are rather awkwardly edited into footage from the pilot, including using different actors than in the original footage, kinda like how Raymond Burr was put into Godzilla. They even have Locke say a line that was originally from a random extra. How the hell did they screw that up? There's a little interlude where the guys find Paolo's body, and then flashback to White Rabbit, where Nikki and Paolo meet Ethan, and then Jack gives his big Stalin speech. Almost enough to make you forget we just saw him leave the supposed love of his life handcuffed for the others to do God knows what with, isn't it? In the present, Hurley brings up if Echo saying "you're next" might have something to do with this. It's as good a guess as any, seeing as we never will get an answer for that, so thanks for reminding us it exists. More flashback as Jerkass from the end of Season 1 gives an obvious Chekhov's lecture on a poisonous spider that attracts others with pheromones, and then Nikki and Paolo find the pearl.
You don't want to climb up to a plane, but now you want to climb down a ladder into a dark tunnel.
If only she'd gotten the chance to say that to Locke. Then another scene which nicely plugs up a minor plot hole about how Shannon knew where the gun case key was in The Greater Good. Funny how they thought that needed to be cleared up more than any of the numerous things they let slide. This lets them know where the diamonds are, but Paolo lies that he can't find them. Back to the present, the question is now whether the others killed Nikki and Paolo, which causes Sun to remember the attack that ended with her head gushing blood. You remember, the one that was actually Charlie because he was pissed about someone calling him on doing heroin again? Then more flashback where Paolo hides the diamonds in the Pearl's toilet, where Ben and Juliet just happened to go to discuss the plan to get Jack to fix his tumor.
Same way I get anybody to do anything. I find out what he's emotionally invested in, and I exploit it.
We're the good guys, Michael.
In the present, Desmond tells Hurley he saw Sawyer arguing with Nikki. Sun still says it has to be the others, guilt-tripping Charlie some more until he admits what he did.
I didn't mean to hurt you.
Ah, that explains why you whacked her in the head with a rock. Shut up, Charlie. In a flashback to the cost of living, we see that Paolo's infamous trip to the bathroom was actually so he could get the diamonds, so he was actually doing something more interesting than taking a shit. It's a shame that in 6 damn episodes they couldn't come up with a way to make that clear that might have made these two more popular. In the present, Sawyer reveals that he was fighting with Nikki because she wanted a gun and he kept quiet so he could get the diamonds himself, which he now gives to Sun as proof that he didn't kill them, and not because of the whole thing about them being completely useless in a place where you can't buy anything. The flashbacks have now caught up to earlier this same day, where Nikki notes that Thanksgiving was 2 weeks ago. Apparently, a lot of fans were really upset that the show didn't acknowledge Thanksgiving, and I really don't get it. What exactly do you think that would have added to the story? Then Nikki finds Paolo's nicotine gum, revealing that he found this suitcase, which leads to her asking Sawyer for a gun.
And who the hell are you?
Once again, this all means nothing. Back in the present, Sun confronts Sawyer over the whole whacking her in the head with a rock so she'd start gushing blood thing. Not that that part is ever mentioned by the episode, or else we might start thinking Charlie did a bad thing, and we can't have that, can we? She's not going to tell Jin because he'd kill Sawyer, and apparently he'd be just fine with the guy who split his wife's head open like a melon. I'm sorry to keep harping on this, but if the show is going to forget about it, I guess it's up to me to remember. The final flashback has Nikki paralyzing Paolo with one of the magic spiders, and then he kills it, causing the pheromones to bring more, so she's bitten. And what she was saying at the beginning of the episode was, "I'm paralyzed." Oh, and by the way, here's both that scene and this one side by side. Thanks for cheating on the audio, guys. Nice to know we're respected as viewers. Back to the present, where everyone has a funeral while we know they're actually burying Nikki and Paolo alive, and it's all so horrible, except for the part where absolutely no one cares. Didn't Cooper show up on the island last time? What's up with that? My score for Expose is 1 out of 10, and the real shame of the whole thing is the 3 episodes before it had built up a genuine sense of momentum. For the first time in more than a year, it really felt like the show was going somewhere. And then this episode happens and the season hits a brick wall and dies. The fourth wall takes a beating through the whole thing until it becomes about a step away from an episode of Moonlighting, and all to no purpose at all. It exists to wipe out 2 characters who never should have happened in the first place, and the attempt to get us to care by making them die in such a disturbing way just comes off as sleazy. And believe it or not, Lindelof and Cuse are still very proud of this episode, showing once again how screwed up their ideas of what constitutes quality storytelling can be.